If you know anything about manga, then you'll probably know about Manhwa and Manhwa. You probably read a bit of all of them, but for the most part, you've settled on one side and view the others as inferior species that deserve to get the coat hanger. And I'm gonna settle this debate once and for all and give you the definitive and totally not biased answer of which one is the best. What's drippin', guys? I'm Drip Thulu. And before we gape the butthole of this topic, let me cover all my nuanced bases and first define just what the fuck the difference is between them. Manga are Japanese comics, Manhua are Chinese comics, and Manhwa are Korean comics. I'm probably butchering the shit out of these pronunciations, but who gives a damn? Anyway, because it might get really confusing which I'm talking about at any given point during the video, at the top of the screen, the topic will be there. It'll change when I switch between manga, manhwa, or manhwa, so you can use it to keep on track with whatever dog shit comes out of my mouth. So to start, let me first lay down the pros and cons of each one, because I gotta make sure that we're all on the same page here. Also, I'll be talking in generals, which means I'm talking about the average one. Don't come at me with some bullshit in the comments about one specific series. Those are called exceptions. I'm talking about the 90% here. The first one that will take their pants off and let me stare at their dick to check for a hernia will be manga, mainly because I feel like that's the one that all of us are familiar with and also probably one that's read the most. So what are the pros of manga? Well, since it's been around for the longest, it has the most variety by far. Pretty much anything you want or could dream of probably has some publication of it. Now, whether it's good or dog shit is not the point. The only thing is that it exists somewhere. You want a story about a boy that has a crush on his teacher but then gets kidnapped and essentially tortured by a bunch of girls and said teacher? There's unironically a manga for that. I don't remember the name, I just remember it. Do you want a manga where a really nice dense boy that looks completely fucking average and has a personality of whole wheat bread crusts, who then gets hit by a fucking truck and gets transported to a new world with tons of OP powers and gets a harem full of super hot loyal girls? Go touch some grass, you isekai tard. Now, what else is good about manga? Well, for the most part, it has a very attractive art style and it's very pleasant for the eyes. And even ones with relatively ass art, it's still pretty fucking good looking. Like, you generally won't look at it and just say, wow, this looks like absolute shit. It's like watching a queen bee hentai. The last pro that I'm gonna say, and while I can't say more, I'm not because I don't want the video to be too long, is that the plot is generally at the very least understandable. Because very often in certain stories you read it and you just wonder where the fuck did this come from or how the fuck did we get here. And while manga does have that, generally speaking, you can draw a line from A to B that makes sense. It may not be good, but at least you can understand what the hell is going on. Now, let's ask about it. Three main things. Not enough variety, very rarely colored, and there's a lot of dog shit manga, and when it's actually good, it is very often milked even when its udders have passed the expiration date and are only giving dusty queefs. You may be thinking right now, Thulu, didn't you just say that one of the good things about it is that it has a lot of variety? Yes, I did say that, and I stand by that point. What I'm talking about is that the stuff created nowadays are very similar to one another, and because these mangakas want to make money, they don't want to experiment with shit that might not attract eyes. So, for example, if you look at the way stuff is released today, you'll notice there are waves of trends. Like, if you look recently, there are so many fucking isekai mangas. It's not even funny. Like, one person makes successful isekai and now everyone is trying to hop on that bandwagon. Even worse is if you look inside those mangas, they all have basically the same copy and pasted white bread plot. And while I don't mind this because I am an isekai tard, it's still mildly annoying when I essentially read the same story with a different brand of condom on it. The next point is pretty self-explanatory. Manga are usually just black and white, and it's pretty rare to get one that has each panel in each page colored. And the last point that I'm gonna talk about for this one is how often the good ones are milked fucking dry. Like, it's either one of two things. Either the story has reached the point where it can end just fine where it is, but then the author decides to add drama or a random ass arc to prolong the story, or the author takes so fucking long and adds so many unnecessary things to the story that it takes years to get to the end. Cough, cough, I'm talking about you, shonens. Cough, cough, I'm talking about you, Kanojo Okorishimasu. Fuck you, by the way. Next up in line to get their vagina penetrated by my judging cashew penis, Manhwa, Chinese manga. For the first pro, for some reason, they have the best translation teams, and also because of the fact that the author releases new chapters very frequently, they are usually updated very often. So for a lot of them, you do not need to wait an entire nipple softening week to get another hit of visual dopamine. Another good thing about them is that they are pretty much always fully colored. I honestly don't think I've ever read one that isn't fully colored from head to dick and dick to toe. Now, the coloring isn't some hyper in-depth gradient rich product, but it is nice to see color on the panels. The last big good thing about them is that they're very long, and I know I just shit on manga for being too long, but let me explain. Generally speaking, with manhwa, instead of feeling milk, they usually feel just right. Like, it just feels like it should be that long. Now that we've gotten all the pros out of the way, what are the cons for this? Well, for starters, the plots are fucking aborted horseshits. It's not even funny. If you've ever searched for Manhwa before, the amount of shitty ones completely overwhelms everything else. Like if you read on Manganello or Manganado or whatever the fuck you want to call it, if you read an ass manga or manhwa, they never dip between 3.8-ish stars. But somehow, Manhwa defy all odds and just fucking shit the bed. Like, I just don't understand how they make such absolute turds. And side note, like half of them have fucked up titles, like they're not even grammatically correct. And I understand that Chinese is painful to translate to English, but can't the translation team just take some liberties to at least make it somewhat readable? Like, what the fuck is No Way My Best Actress Wife? Is that even English anymore? The next problem with manhwa in general is that it takes fucking forever for anything to happen, which should probably only take 5 to 10 chapters for a Korean or Japanese story to finish. It takes these ones like 30 plus chapters. Like I was reading My Wife is from 1,000 Years Ago, and I have to say it's not that bad. But anyway, it took like 6 or 7 chapters just for the first day to pass. Not arc, day. And while I did enjoy it, I just kept wondering, when will this fucking thing move on? Now, the last and probably biggest issue for me, there's a serious lack of variety. When I say there are 2 main topics that get used to ever living hell, I mean it. Either you have some weird romance thing that is just yikes, or you have cultivation up the anal canal. Like, the amount of things talking about meridians, or chi, or some kind of cultivating to reach the heavenly place, fucking shoot me, god fuck! Please just make a different goddamn fantasy when I'm begging you. It doesn't have to be something insane. Just stop with all the fucking 8-heart cultivation with 10-year-old jits in your old ass fucking uncle's toenail. Fuck! Excuse me for my outburst, but I just really need to get that off my chest. And now the last one on the list is Manhwa. So as usual, let's inspect the testicles on this one now. The pros are simple. Like Manhwa, they are fully colored, and completely unlike Manhwa, they are generally of a much higher story quality, and like manga, they have a lot of variety. I'm not really going to comment about it being fully colored. I've already talked about it because of Manhwa, and the same things apply. When it comes to the story quality though, it is seriously amazing. Like, there's a lot of good ones, and even if the source material is ass or mediocre, for some reason the manhwa just turns out amazing. I'm talking about Solo Leveling, completely average web novel, but because of the god tier art style and the focus they place on battles, seriously poggers. It is honestly more difficult for me to name a shitty manhwa than it is for me to name good ones. Like, I can think of Second Life Ranker, or Return as Magic Should Be Special, How to Fight, Second Coming of Gluttony, etc. And they're all really, really good, especially Second Coming of Gluttony, although you should read the source material because even though the manhwa is good, it's just not as good as a novel. Sorry, I'm a diehard lover of the series, I just needed to advertise it real quick. The last good thing about it is that, again, just like manga, it has a lot of variety, and even though it hasn't been around for as long, there are tons of authors that are willing to go into different ideas and topics, so you can generally find something that'll itch your nutsack in a pleasant way. Now, the cons. Well, first off, the art can be seriously inconsistent. Unlike what some people may be used to, a lot of manhwa are made in seasons, and by season, it's just like how it is in anime. They're made and released in chunks by a studio, but then, in between seasons, just like anime, it can be picked up by a different studio, and more often than not, they completely fuck up the art style. Cough cough bug players, seriously, what the fuck is this? How the fuck did the main character gain a chromosome between chapters? Like, actually, what the fuck happened to his face? What is this shit? The next issue is that there's just way too many characters. They introduce way too many fucking characters, and they expect you to remember each and every single one of them, even when like most of them don't show up for the next like 50 chapters. Like, by the end, you'll probably forget like half the names of not even those ones, just the main cast. You'll probably forget half of them. And the last issue is also a character problem, that being they all have damn near the same name. What is the difference between Soyoung and Youngso? It's the same name, just backwards, but for some reason they have to be 2 completely different characters, and they're usually referred to the same exact way for some reason. It doesn't even have to be that though, because 2 characters will just have names that are way too easy to confuse. Like in Second Coming of Gluttony, you have So Yuki, and then you have Yun Sehui. Like, what the fuck? Those names are so goddamn similar. And now that we've finished comparing everything, it's time for the verdict. Which one is the absolute best, and which one eats shit in hell? Well, to keep you in suspense for a little longer, let me get rid of the worst one first. The one that is the absolute shittiest in all of its existence is Manhwa, Chinese manga. Fuck that. I'm not gonna hide my hatred for it. Yeah, there are good ones, but fuck off. The average one is so shit. Reading one of these is like playing Russian roulette with 5 out of 6 of the chambers having bullets. Now, between manga and manhwa, what's better? And the answer is Manhwa. It is way easier to find good quality content, and despite being colored, the art is still very good, generally speaking. And it also has a lot of variety. It is essentially just manga, except upgraded a bit in certain areas. This is not to discount any of the good mangas out there, as there are so many good ones, but in general, it is more difficult to find objectively solid ones as compared to the Korean counterparts, which makes it just a little bit worse. Anyway, that's my piece. Do you guys want me to make more anime-esque videos like this, kind of breaking stuff down or settling like stupid debates like this? If you do, leave it in the comments and I'll probably make more if that's what you really want. If you want any recommendations, you can also leave a comment below and I'll be sure to reply. See you all later. Have a decent day. Ja.